And has proven to be a quick study, as he threw for over 8,000 yards and 95 touchdowns in his first 2 years as a starter.
Lord, know my heart, and I got so much love to give. He who tries gotta die. Put on murder gloves
for the first game. Starts a different point. Kessler obviously had a fantastic career, but you would assume that Max Browne feels like he can step up and make these types of plays very consistently in the lineup.
I'll learn how to fly.
Out of the backfield for the Pittsburgh touchdown. 48 yards. Hey, Max Browne did a nice job, but he looked to the left. He didn't like what he seen.
Glowing the dark is only safe for me to move at night.
In ASU last year, can that be not just something that happens game here, game there, but every single drive.
He went from one bad team to another. That helped him win Rookie of the Year like it did the Heisman. The only thing standing in his way is Caleb.
Hurt in desperate need of perfection. Gave up my wings and fell in love with.
Episode 207. Devontae in the pub with me, and the one, the only, Max Browne, baby. We snagged him. We got him.
West, yo.
What up, fellas? That was a sick little intro right there.
Just for you, brother. I spent a good hour on it, and
did you really? I need to get a little copy of that. And it's funny. Before we went live, I heard you guys talking about Cal Raleigh, and I didn't even plan this, but I got my Ken Griffey Jr. Graphic tee as a Seattle guy. So go Mariners!
Man, all right, we're already off to a great start here. I'm a Reds guy. I'm from Cincinnati, so Ken Griffey Jr. and the Griffeys are A tier in my book, and Devontae's a Mariner guy, so this is perfect.
Love that,
dude. I know you're busy, so we appreciate your time. You got the 6 set up behind you, dude. I love it. The old school Pitt helmet. I feel like that might be the best helmet in college football.
There's a reason this was a retro helmet when I was there. There's a reason it's full time now. I guess I forgot what side it on. And then this one on the other side, the Pac-12 one. It's low key right now, but if we fast forward a decade, that thing's gonna be sick.
Okay, yeah, I'll pick that up. Yeah, I'll vibe with it because it might be a fossil. I don't want to say
exactly.
Man, dude, I can't thank you enough for hopping on. You kind of alluded to it. You're a Washington guy. You go to USC. You had this journey that I can't even fathom because I feel like you were in the spotlight early on. And I know that's probably how it feels for you. You're a 5-star. You were Gatorade Player of the Year over Derrick Henry, which I know we can get into here in a second. But, dude, like, I remember I think you're a couple years younger than us. And, like, you hear this guy, Max Browne, coming out of Washington. You're like, Washington? Okay, let's see. Like, we'll see how good Leaf did, and it's like, oh, okay, this guy can ball. Like, you turn the film on, and Max Browne can ball, man. So, how was it growing up in that Washington area, and just, how was your journey leading up to college in USC?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned those expectations. I mean, in my own little bubble in my community, like those expectations were all I knew. So it wasn't even like it was something that was tons of pressure or like heightened. Like that was the case for me since the jump. My oldest brother was a big time quarterback in my hometown, and the public high school I went to won a bunch of state championships and had a bunch of great quarterbacks. The quarterback before me at my high school was actually the number 1 quarterback in the country as well. So there was like a rich tradition up there, and I love that. It's a big reason why I went to USC. I embraced that legacy, but it was crazy looking back on it. Yeah, looking back, I always think that me being in the class of 2013 was an interesting timeline because that's right where the shift happened, where really to be a 5-star quarterback you needed to be dual threat. I definitely was not dual threat. It was an interesting time where I was not recruited on social media at all. So I didn't have to relate to, or maybe a little bit of Twitter, but not really. Right. But anyone younger than me, social media was like a cornerstone of their recruitment. So interesting timeline, but a fun, even watching that montage to start this chat. It's fun to kind of reminisce that.
Yeah, man. And I'm glad you brought up social media. Like we got a lot of young listeners and stuff. Like, I guess you guys don't realize how new social media is. Like, you're going to have coaches in your top 8 of MySpace trying to recruit you, and like Facebook was still learning how to evolve and become. And obviously there's not a lot of recruiting in there, but Twitter was when it really exploded. And I had no idea you were kind of the last leg before poof, Lane Kiffin and those guys take off on Twitter and they start recruiting everybody, anybody that can reach through there. How was that?
Yeah. Sorry about that. I remember, my when I committed to USC on April 1st of 2011, and I remember being like, "Ooh, let me retweet this," and that was kind of like a groundbreaking, or like let me try to get all these followers from the USC fan base, and that was kind of like a groundbreaking thing. And the idea that you would even get recruited over Instagram at that point was like crazy talk. That wasn't even something you'd entertain.
Exactly. Well, before I go there, let's rewind a little bit. Did you play any other sports? You know, a lot of quarterbacks good at basketball, maybe a little baseball in there. How about you?
I was a hooper growing up. I was basketball, football all the way up until pretty much freshman year of high school. And I realized as a 6'5" white dude, basketball was probably not gonna be it for me. And then I was baseball growing up too, but that naturally faded out for me.
I don't know, man. 6'5" white dude come out of Washington. I don't know. That's at least back then, that's a pretty good recipe. I don't know.
We
give it up so quick.
Yeah, what 6'5" white dude, Luke Ridnour or something. That's a way.
Yeah, man.
A throwback Washington guy.
Turning ducks into bucks.
Yeah, I played AAU hoops and high school hoops against Zach Levine all growing up. So that's kind of my one little basketball talking point.
Hey, there you go.
So being from Washington, like what side? I don't know. Like, so I'm from North Carolina. You know, people go NC State, Carolina. They always have different schools because it's so many. So with you being from Washington, you know, you got Wazoo, you got the Huskies, you got Eastern Washington. Like, what side was that? Something that you guys grew up with, or was it just kind of whatever? It's a school out here.
Yeah, so my parents went to the University of Idaho. My dad kicked there, so I never really bought into the whole Apple Cup rivalry with Washington State and Washington as much. I grew up in Washington's backyard, though. I was 25 minutes away. Wow. I remember driving to the campus, more times than I can count to train in their indoor facility. That's where my quarterback coach was. So, like, I was very much in their backyard. They were my first offer, but I never really drank the Kool-Aid like a lot of Seattle kids do. I know. So at my high school, there was 2 5-stars in the class above me as well, and they were very much down between Washington and one other school. And I just never really drank that Kool-Aid for whatever reason. My best friend growing up was a Coug, so if I had to pick one side, I would always go Washington State early on, which is kind of a little bit bizarre. But I grew up when Washington State was nice, like 2003, 2004. Washington State was one of the best teams in the country. Yeah. But yeah, it's your last point too about Eastern Washington. That's I know this is not why you guys had me on, but there's a reason Eastern's been historically really good the past 15, 20 years, because you're talking about a relatively large pool of football players that you either go Washington or Washington State, and then Eastern Washington's really the only D1 AA school like in that pocket. Yes, you have Portland State, but there's some talent out there, which is why the Eags have been good. Cooper Kupp and all those guys.
Yeah.
Dude, absolutely. All right. So what led you to USC? Obviously, you're coming from a high school, which you alluded to, that had great quarterback after great quarterback, success after successful program. USC is the college version of that. Was that the main focal point? Like, hey, this seems like the right pipeline?
Yeah, I'm the perfect age of, my first college football memories are Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush. And so I always laugh when, I chat with current USC players and they're like, oh, I remember watching Matt and Reggie. And it's like, no, you don't. Maybe on YouTube, but not in the flesh. So like growing up, USC was not only, as a West Coast kid, but just that was peak college football nationally for me. And so when I got that offer, it stuck out even a decade after Matt and Reggie. But it was a bunch of factors. At the time when I committed to USC, they were the number 1 team in the country. That's when Matt Barkley had returned to college. They had Robert Woods and Marquise Lee and TJ McDonald, like all those dudes. They only won 7 games the next year. But number 1 team in the country. They did not take a quarterback in the class above me. So, when you're trying to play early and get on the field, sure, I'm all about competition. But when they're not taking a quarterback in the class above you, that means they need you to hit, and they're going to invest in you, which was not lost upon me. And yeah, just being a West Coast kid, the opportunity to go to USC was a dream.
Yeah, go ahead, Devontae.
No, I was saying that yes, that's real. Like I'm thinking about that when people talk about Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart. Like even now, like with the disbandment of Pac-12 and just like the way that the scales have been tipped as far as the West Coast teams. You talk to a lot of kids now, like with the social media age, and they don't know, bro. They don't know who Marquise Lee is. They don't know they barely know who Robert Woods is. Like had it not been for Madden, they probably wouldn't know. So it's just kind of interesting to think about that too.
Totally. Yeah. The little nugget I say is Marquise Lee is the best receiver that I played with. And we're talking, I played with Juju Smith-Schuster and, a bunch of big time guys, Darius Rogers, Michael Pittman, some big time guys, but Marquise Lee, when healthy, in and out of breaks, if he could have stayed healthy or landed in a different spot, his NFL career could have been a lot different.
Yeah, absolutely. You get Gatorade Player of the Year. How was that, man? I feel like that's got to be an amazing feeling right there.
It's crazy, dude. It's funny. I literally just put the trophy in storage nearby this past weekend because I was like, I don't really have a place for it. My little setup here, and it's a little bit of like living in the past, living in the glory days a little bit. It'll come out when I have a man cave down the road because it's a sick trophy.
Yeah, you tell the wife, hey, I need a spot just for this.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. But it was crazy. I mean, looking back, it wasn't even on my radar, to be honest. I got the award my very last day of high school, December of my senior year, because I graduated early to go to USC. And at that point, it was a rookie, Russell Wilson, came on the intercom at my school and was like, we're presenting Max Browne with the trophy. And it was wild. I was coming off a state championship with my childhood homies like a couple weeks before. So that was always like the pinnacle of high school football for me. The idea of getting the Gatorade National Player of the Year was wild and obviously an all-time moment.
Cherry on the top, man. That's dope as hell. How many people rib you for getting it over Derrick Henry?
Yeah, I probably bring it upon myself because I've made some content around that of like, I don't know if this is sad or sweet, but I'm the dude that won it over Derrick. I think now it's more of just like, hey, that's sweet, dude. Like, good on you.
Exactly.
Obviously, Derrick's he's got a much more important Player of the Year trophy in his man cave.
I don't know, NFL, Gatorade. No, I'm with you. I think it is pretty sweet. You get bragging rights. You ever get to see him like, hey, 2013, baby.
There's a cool picture of me accepting it and like him in the background, and he's a great dude. Like he was awesome to me during the all the camp circuits and whatnot. But it's just funny in hindsight that he's one of the best running backs of my generation, and that picture kind of captures it all.
That's awesome, dude. All right, so your time at USC, and you can get into it as much as you want. For those, it was up and down. It feels like you go in there, and it wasn't just USC's football, but like the coaching. You had Lane Kiffin get fired on the tarmac in 2013, which is the year you were coming out. Coach O's the intern, and then Chris Helton gets it. And so, like, I just feel like there was never consistency in that front office, which maybe you could speak more of here. And then, you're behind some guys that can ball, and it just feels like you never kind of got that traction that you really wanted. Your first start was against Bama. Like, whew, dude, that's tough.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly didn't have some of the external factors that, when you kind of need something to roll your way. I mean, you just listed a few of those. Those definitely didn't work out for me. But at the end of the day, I just didn't get it done. I had my chances. I had 2 quarterback competitions with Cody Kessler. I got beat out in both. And then the 2016 one, when, early on when I got beat out, I was like, hey, I'm going to take the Mark Sanchez path. And in USC world, that's rather than playing right away, it's wait your turn and then you play on the back end. And then especially at a school like USC, my mindset was, hey, 1 or 2 years at USC is better than 3 years at insert B-level school kind of thing, or maybe even C-level school. So that was my mindset. And then Sam Darnold, who in the grand scheme of USC quarterback recruits, he was not a prolific quarterback recruit. In fact, he's probably one of he's probably towards the bottom in terms of recruiting rankings over the past couple decades. That might not be true. But anyways, he wasn't this like five-star guy. He came in here and I was like, I'm going to have my hands full for sure. But I stuck it out, got named captain, beat him out. And then, went 1-2 those first few games and ultimately had to go to Pitt. But it was a tough time. It was a blessing to play at USC, but to have those expectations and, if we're being honest, not even come remotely close to tapping into that upside. It's frustrating, and but it's also part of my story, and certainly something I kind of take ownership in because my mindset's that's kind of really the only thing you can do at this point.
Yeah, dude, I've loved the way you've turned it positive and how you didn't let it define you, because you see a lot of young athletes, it does define them, especially that first year where they don't get on the field and they transfer out or they just quit, they give up on it. Where like you just kept going, you say, I'm gonna put my head down and keep going to work, and something's eventually gonna bounce my way, which I think it goes a long way of saying, like, just kudos to you, man. I think it's truly amazing.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. I always it's funny. I mean, I always think about like, if I had grown up in the transfer portal era and the NIL era, the dynamics and the pressure to transfer would have been a whole different beast.
Yeah.
I'm not lying when I said I genuinely never really thought about transferring. It's not like the thought like never came across my mind, but I can tell you that the call to my parents and my dad to be like, hey, should I explore my options? That never happened. And it speaks to, I loved going to school at USC, but it also, like I was saying, I trusted in that. I trusted in the work. I trusted in the Mark Sanchez path. It wasn't meant to be. And I see both sides. I mean, sometimes people try to be like, oh, like Max, you probably wish guys would stick it out more and, wait their turn. Yeah, I think that's sometimes the case. But I'm saying, hey, go get yours. And if you can get on the field, there's a lot of guys that, had storied careers at B and C level programs, and they're one of the best quarterbacks in the program's history that may or may not have ever even seen the field if they went to a blue blood program, which is an interesting concept and would never happen in basketball, but it could happen in football. So I see both sides to it.
Yeah, dude, exactly. I think me and Devontae are on the same page as you there.
It's that whole the transfer portal thing is why we talked about it before a couple times on the show. It's like you see both sides of it, but it is a jungle out there. Like it's almost as if like honestly, the NCAA transfer portal was just as exciting as like the NFL free agency at one point, because like it helps you get to know players a little bit more who probably might end up going pro, but it's also interesting to see like which way they go, where they go, why they go, and then like there's a bunch of stories like how is this not getting a story, but it's just a lot, and it kind of makes me wonder like what took so long, but also I see now that players are starting to be able to invest in themselves more. But you spoke about your time at Pitt. Now, talk about like what are some of the differences or similarities in environment when it came to Pac-12 football and then going to ACC football?
Yeah, I would say the Pac-12 is better than the ACC, at least in my timeline there. And it's funny, the ACC better thank Clemson for carrying the torch, because it felt like a lot of the bad marketing.
I can't let you do that, dog. Doing I'm a NC State grad. I can't let you do that, man. Oh man.
Hey, well, let me finish my thought, and I'll get your pushback. But here's where I'm at. I think the Florida State and the Clemson for the past 15 years have carried the torch as like the premier program. But when you look top to, and it was easy to kind of dog on the Pac-12 and whatnot. You look top to bottom. The bottom half of the Pac-12, which is never like a sexy thing to say because those teams are like, not, they're not on the ticker at SportsCenter. Those teams can consistently put up points. There's a reason there was upsets out west versus the bottom half of the ACC. You're getting some bad football teams some years. And I think there's more volatility on the ACC like over the past 15 years since I've been involved in college football. But to your point, like the NC States of the world, they're like, right, probably the past 15 years, probably like number 5 program in the ACC. Like they're holding the torch, but like the schools 6 through whatever, like that to me is where the Pac-12 has the slight edge over the ACC. But what you got?
I feel like I feel you now. I should have listened initially, but it does feel like a little competitive, like especially now that they got rid of the Pac-12 and some of the Pac-12 teams are coming into the ACC. Logistically, I don't know how that's working because they said Cal has to travel like 24,000 miles or something, which is crazy to me. So what are your thoughts on that? Like them coming into the ACC, like how do you think it's gonna, shake up the conference a bit?
Yeah, so it's funny. I'm gonna, I guess, backtrack on what I said a little bit. The Cal and Stanford were two of the worst programs in the Pac-12 last year. So they going into the ACC. It's not like getting Stanford 7 years ago under the peak David Shaw days. Stanford's got to get a lot better. Cal's been middling for a little while, but by no means should they instill fear in any of the ACC teams. At least not right now, but it'll be interesting. I think the average college football fan, there's a ripple effect going on out west that I think the average college football fan doesn't necessarily realize, and that is what you said, the travel nightmare, not only for football, but all the sports of Stanford and Cal. I think there's a world, I'm not saying it's likely, but I think there's a world where Stanford and Cal look up this time next year and say that was an absolute nightmare athletically and logistically, going coast to coast and all that, coupled with the fact that you have Washington State and Oregon State that technically are still part of the Pac-12 entity, technically for this season and next season. But come the 2026 season, they have to find a new home. They have to find a new conference. So something's going to give there. And whether they bring in the Mountain West schools or they go to the Mountain West, I think there's a world where potentially Stanford and Cal could look around and say, we don't want to do this ACC thing anymore, coupled with the fact that I also think Clemson and Florida State could potentially look around over the next two seasons and say, we got to get with the big boys in the SEC or the Big Ten. And a lot of those, the pressure of a lot of those forces, I think, could potentially have another conference shakeup here in 2 or 3 years. We'll see. I'm not saying that's likely, but I am saying it's a possibility to keep your eye on.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah.
Yeah, I think
I don't know, man. I think it's gonna be a good show. Like, I mean, I actually watched a lot of Pac-12 football last season, and I watched it, and I'm thinking, you watched that, and of course I watched the ACC football. And I'm thinking, like, I don't know, they might do a little something. I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked to see it be a little battle because that's a lot of offense. And I know with ACC it's like slugfest, so it'll be interesting to see.
It'll definitely be competitive for sure. Again, it's a whole different beast getting Stanford in 2024 than Stanford in 2016. And then one last little nugget too, Jaden Ott, Cal's running back. He's got to be a top 5, top 3 running back in college football. Like, look for his name on NFL lists for the 2025 draft. He's special. I've had the pleasure of calling a handful of his games.
Yeah, I love that take. Let's talk a little more Pitt here. What led you to Pitt? Going from you did it. You went from West Coast to East Coast there. What went in that decision for you?
Yeah, I was looking at three factors. I wanted to go to a place where I could win because if you don't win, they're looking to replace the quarterback after the out of the conference games sometimes. Wanted to go to a place that needed me. I was familiar with quarterback competitions. I didn't want to go to a place that had other guys waiting in the wing and I was going to have to battle it out. Ironically, the two guys that I was battling with at Pitt were Ben DiNucci and Kenny Pickett, who ended up being NFL starting quarterbacks. So it's funny how things progress and guys develop. And then I wanted to win, place that needed me, and then a place that wanted me, a place that was outwardly showing and recruiting me and saying, hey, you're our guy. And I remember the days where I was the scout team quarterback at USC as a captain once I got benched, and then I would come off the field and I was chatting with Pat Narduzzi like 30 minutes after wearing a USC uniform legally because I had my permission to contact schools from USC. Clay Helton let me do that. And it was a weird time, but Pitt showed interest. At that time, they had success with 2 back-to-back transfer quarterbacks and Tom Savage, a name from the past, and Nate Peterman, who's obviously known by college football fans. He came from Tennessee. So I said, sweet, this is the go-to spot. And one last little nugget. So Pitt was I transferred there in 2017. Pitt was the #1 offense in the country in 2016. That was with Nate Peterman, James Conner. I don't know if Tyler Boyd was there, but Pitt was.
I think so.
Pitt was cutting edge on the jet sweep stuff that took over college football the next 3 to 4 years. So it felt like the perfect landing spot.
Yeah, I can't fault you at all for that. How was the culture shift going from Hollywood, USC to blue collar Pitt?
Yeah, it was different. I think the day-to-day culture wasn't a huge adjustment for me. Like I wasn't necessarily like a Southern California beach kid growing up. Like I grew up in Seattle, like the suburbs of Seattle. So, but just getting used to Pittsburgh wasn't a huge change. But I will say that the change of going to a school where you're expected to contend for national championships and conference championships to a school like Pitt, where they have a prideful history and it's a strong history. They got a lot of NFL Hall of Famers and college football Hall of Famers, but it's a different tone, right? It's a extremely successful season if you win double-digit games at Pitt versus at USC. That's just the expectation, and so the mindset's different. The depth on the rosters is different. In some ways, probably more healthy at Pitt, but no, a bunch of great people there, and it's a program that, of course, I'm still always rooting for.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Oh.
You get obviously it works out for you. You get ACC Player of the Year, and then the next week happens. I mean, how was that like all-time high? Like, I'm clicking, I'm finding my own. Like, I still got a chance at this lifelong dream of being an NFL quarterback, getting drafted, ACC Player of the Year, and then unfortunately 6 days later, you end up on IR pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. That was the end. That was the last snap I took. Yeah, it was ACC Player of the Week versus Rice, and like you said, 7 days later, I got sacked and ripped up my right shoulder, and I would rehab for the next 15 months to try to give the NFL a run, but wasn't able to make it work. But yeah, the Rice game, it was more relief than anything. I mean, I can remember walking off that field being like, finally, all the things that I've done on the practice field for a few years at that point finally was able to showcase itself on Saturday. And I think my teammates sensed that. I think some of the people from USC sensed that, of like, hey, we had seen that behind the scenes for a little while now, and like, good on Max for it finally showing through. And at that point I was like, sweet, all that bullshit's behind me. Finally got the momentum. Now we got a whole season ahead of us of, 7 more games. Let's go do this thing, and let's go, put some film on tape and give myself a shot at the NFL. Like, that was my mindset. And then obviously it ended shortly thereafter. But rather than excitement or like being joyful or anything like that, it was more just was able to finally exhale, and it was a relief that I finally showed through.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, 410 yards, I think, and 4 tutties. You were slinging that thing, brother.
We were. It was a good day at the office.
Yeah. So, Devontae, any other pick questions for him before we jump NFL analyst and that type of stuff?
No, that really. I'm trying to. So you said it was James Conner. I'm trying to think. Jordan Addison was a little bit after that, right? Or was he there near the end?
Jordan Addison actually a handful of years after, because I covered him at USC as a media member on the radio. But yeah, they may have been Tyler Boyd. I forget. They had some good tight ends there. Like Browne O'Neal was their right tackle. At one point was the highest paid right tackle in the NFL, at least a couple of years ago. Yeah, they had some dudes for sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. So you get hurt, you go in that rehab, which you just talked about. You don't hear your name called, which we talked about earlier, the expectations of you growing up a 5-star Gatorade Player of the Year. It felt like, once again, maybe that pressure was on that shoulders again. Like, I should hear my name called. And like, I feel like that was a goal. Every kid works toward like, hey, I'm going to be an NFL player. But like, you actually had a great start at it to do it. And then you don't hear your name called. And then you have a tryout with, I think, Steelers and RIP Redskins, now the Commanders, right?
Yep, exactly.
And like, how was that whole draft process getting ready? I know you were probably focused on PT, getting that shoulder right, but like, just leading up to that whole process, how was it?
Yeah, the draft process was interesting. I mean, I I went to San Diego and trained for the few months leading up to my pro day, and I had a quasi pro day because I was only probably 7 months out of right labrum surgery as a right-handed quarterback, and so I was doing like slants and 5 yard outs and 10 yard in routes and like trying to show that I was like on track and healthy. And in hindsight, probably shouldn't have done that. My arm was extremely sore for the next like week after, and I probably was unnecessarily pushing it at that point. But I was so motivated to show that I was working and showing that I was on track. But I probably did myself a little bit of a disservice in hindsight there. But I knew my name wasn't going to get called, at least at that point. Obviously, that was the goal when I was a college quarterback. But I just knew that I didn't have the film, and obviously being hurt, I knew I wouldn't get my name called. But I got invited to 5 rookie mini camps. But at that point, I knew I couldn't compete in a rookie mini camp with where my arm was at. So it wasn't even a tough decision to turn those down, or I guess wasn't even turning those down. It was more just like, hey guys, I'm not healthy. So let's chat when I am. And then that fall was interesting because I was hoping to be healthy by September, and then September came and went, and then hoping to be healthy by October, November, and then I got to December, and at that point, the college football season's pretty much over, and another crop of quarterbacks is coming through. I'm 15 months out of surgery, and again, right shoulder injury for right-handed quarterback. I was kind of like, feels like it's now or never. Even though I was a 5-star quarterback, like I didn't really have film, and I wasn't a guy to me that wanted to chase the CFL. It felt like I had been on this grind of candidly things not really working out for me for like 6 years at that point, all throughout college, and then the 15-month rehab process. And so I was like, hey, kind of is what it is. Let me pursue the tryout. I guess we even a tryout. It was a legit workout, invited workout for the Steelers and the Commanders to get a future contract, which NFL fans might know. It's where you kind of guys that are free agents, you kind of get the first rights to them for the next calendar year. And I remember throwing a comeback. I was on the right hash, throwing a 16-yard comeback, 20-yard comeback to the left sideline, and I could like get it there, and like it looked okay, but I knew I just didn't have what I once had. And sure, I could have tried to grind it out for another year or so, but it felt like I had squeezed everything out of the orange, so to speak, and it was time to kind of move forward with life.
Man, I'm gonna give you flowers again, because that's a hard pill to swallow, especially at such a young age, and to realize
Appreciate
like, hey,
that.
my mind can do it, but my body can't. Like, I mean, there's guys 30s, 40s that are in that position. They're like, no, let me keep going, let me keep trying, and it just never works out, dude. So for you to realize that, I'm really impressed. That says a lot.
I appreciate that. No, it means a lot. Thanks.
Yeah, dude. Devontae, anything before we talk a little this year?
I just wanted to say, like, I do follow you on TikTok, and it seems like you're like a pretty positive and funny guy. So like, I'm seeing this all through your story, going from the high school player of the year, going from USC, having a lot, like having to go through all those changes and then having to transfer. How, like, all those changes from you going from QB1 to QB2 to you even saying that you were on the practice squad at a point, how did all that sort of like instability kind of impact your love for football, or like wanting to be a football player at all?
It's a good question, man. I've never been asked that on a podcast like this. And it's funny because my relationship with football has changed over the past 6 years, which I think the average follower of mine like doesn't realize. I think it's easy to be like, oh, he was quarterback max, and then he made a seamless transition to the next phase of life, and he's always loved football, and it's always great and all that. And that's not the case. I mean, I always knew in my head that I was going to love football, or I guess like football, and want to be around football in some capacity. But those first few years when I was done playing, my heart was not there. My heart was maybe a little bitter towards the game of football, a little exhausted with the game of football. I was not looking forward to reading articles on The Athletic about, the upcoming season and all that. Like, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to. I was so granular in the game of football for the past like 18 years. I wasn't about that. I forced myself to do that because I knew I wanted to, again, I knew I wanted a career in the media space, and I knew my 40-year-old self would want to still be involved in football in some capacity. But it's been cool over the past 5-6 years since I've been out of football. That love for the game has swung back around, which then has, it's lit up my heart more to make more content and read those articles and dive into those nuances and be more of that football junkie that I was my entire life, that I lost steam with those couple years once I got done playing.
Wow,
I love that.
Good. I like to find out the why. Like, know, it's a pretty deep question, but I appreciate your answer.
Yeah, I think I mean, I'm friends with my brother-in-law was a professional golfer. I know people that are in like baseball at competitive level. That's a topic that not a lot of people talk about, but I see it more often than not is like guys that played at a high level. The second they're done, like played at a high level, but not the highest level. So you're not talking Tom Brady. You're not talking, hey, I had an illustrious 5-7 year career in the NFL, but like, hey, I played peak college, but my sport didn't end on my own terms. Yeah. There's a lot of guys that I think don't like being around the sport those next few years. And it's a topic that I don't think it's talked about a lot, but I see it across all sports for people that competed at a high level.
100%. I know I went through it when my career was done, and I think Devontae, you probably had a little same feeling. I know you're more of a hooper, but like, yeah, it reminds me. I don't know if you guys saw the Boys of Fall documentary, like 30 for 30, or ESPN did. It's back in 2012, 2011 or something. But like, I think John Madden was talking about like games of like football is just this train ride. We're all just on this ride having fun, but eventually you're asked to get off the train, and like you don't want to get off, but you have to. And it's a sucky feeling to have to get off that train, not on your own terms, not to say goodbye the way you want to. So, Max, thanks for opening up like that, man.
For sure. And it's also with like, no work experience, no money at that point because NIL wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Like, we champion, or I guess sports fans champion, like, hey, you got to be all in on your sport. And so you get tunnel vision, and then all of a sudden it's taken away. And you're like, what do I want to do with my life? Like, I was a dude who kind of like, I took care of business in school and all that. And I still struggle with that. Like the amount of teammates that I have that, still kind of, you never really find that path. It's tough for sure.
Absolutely, man. But you're killing on social media. You've got to call Pac-12 games now, which has been, that's got to feel like a full circle moment for you.
It was cool, man. I was sad to see it go, but it was fun the past few years to, go to stadiums that I was growing up watching all the time. It was special trying to keep it rolling and waiting on some calls from some networks to hopefully call games for this fall. But that's my North Star in the media business is calling games on Saturday.
I love it. Hey, we're rooting for you on that one. We're all chasing goals here and dreams here. So we're definitely rooting for you. If not, maybe you get in the podcast game. Your TikTok game's taking off. Maybe you start the Max Browne,
I need to take a page out of your guys' book. Yeah, not to get all technical on you, but I think like social media or the short form has kind of been where I've been executing on. I kind of want to double down there and execute there, and then evolve to the more long form. I think a lot of people do the reverse of that.
The reverse of it, yeah.
So just trying to take advantage where there's opportunity.
That's what it's all about, man. That's awesome. Well, we got 3 team schedules here for you for this upcoming college football season. You want to try to guess how many wins we get?
Let's do it.
All right, I love it. Let's start with your alma mater, Pitt, baby. Starting off with Kent State. Then you get the Bearcats away. West Virginia, Country Roads, Take Me Home. At least you get them at home. Youngstown State at home. Then you travel down to our way, Chapel Hill, UNC. And you get Cal, Cuse at home. SMU, you're on the road. Virginia, Clemson, you're at home. Louisville, Boston College on the road, though. How you feeling?
Yep. This is kind of the ACC schedule we're talking about, where like there's just a lot of competitive games in here. Let's see. That's a relatively Youngstown State will sneak up on people. They almost beat us when I was there. I'm going. I got to study up on the nuances of Pitt's roster, but I'm going. Syracuse will be better. I think Clemson levels up this year. I'll go bowl eligible, but I'll go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I'll go 7 and 5 bowl eligible, but it's have to grind to get there.
All right. I like it. Who's the 5 losses you feeling?
I'm going Syracuse, Clemson, SMU with their newfound NIL money. I'll say they're gonna. That's gonna be tough. 1, 2, 3. I'll go North Carolina and Cincy.
Ooh, okay. I do like your take there. I do see 7-5 bowl eligible, which is what you want. You want to get to give us a seat at the table. Yeah, it's like you said, man. This ACC schedule is tough.
It'll be interesting. I gotta study up on some of the middle tier ACC schools, but yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm fascinated to see, like, for the ACC and the Big 12, when you have a, let's say, 2-loss non-conference champ, how they stack that up, or even if it's a 1-loss non-conference champ, how do they stack that up versus, that 3-loss non-conference Big 10 or SEC non-conference champ for those schools, just because the discrepancy with the strength of conference is wider now than ever before. It'll be interesting to see how they fill in that 10, 11, 12 spot for the playoff this year.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. I love this app switcher, but every week Devontae will tell you it messes up somehow.
Like a little ghost.
It is a ghost. So I got USC's now. So we go back to your original alma mater here.
USC's.
Yep. They got LSU, Utah State at home. Then they travel to the Big House to Michigan. Then they get Wisconsin at home, Minnesota on the road, Penn State at home. That's a good one. Maryland on the road, Rutgers home, Washington on the road, Nebraska home, UCLA away, and then Notre Dame at home.
Dang.
All right, let's see this thing. I just pulled it up. I think USC is fascinating to project every offseason because it's so easy to be like, hey, they could be a top 5 team, and then they end up being like, 7-5 or whatever. But this year, especially, just given the uncertainty of not uncertainty, because I think Miller Moss, their quarterback's going to start, but whether or not, and I think he's good, but can he be great? That's where I don't know, and it'll be interesting. And I think Lincoln Riley is going to very much make his money. Gosh, this will be interesting. All right, I'm gonna go. They lose the opener versus LSU. I think they win Utah State. I think they beat Michigan. I think Michigan's going to have trouble at quarterback this year, so I'll go 2 there. That Wisconsin game is going to be sneaky because Wisconsin underperformed last year. Like, that could very much set the tone for their entire season. Yeah. I'm going to go win there. I'm going to go 3-1. Check that. I'm going 2-2. Then in Minnesota, they get that win. 3-2. Penn State, they're 3-3. Let's go. They go 5-3. I can see them 6-3. Washington will be interesting this year, how they revamp. Nebraska's going to be tough. It's funny. Nebraska's like everyone's darling now, which naturally makes me want to not get in the camp because everyone's in their camp this year. But I'll say Notre Dame's going to be tough. UCLA, they should get it done. I'll go 8-4 for USC, which I actually think is pretty respectable given where they're at and kind of where that defense was a year ago. But if you clip this segment and you post it to USC fans, I think an 8-4 season for USC fans is going to have people disgruntled and be like, "What's going on?" And I would say be patient because, again, I don't think that's actually that bad of a season in the new look Big Ten with how good these teams are. But 8-4 is where I see them.
Man, one of my friends is a USC fan as well, and he'll send screenshots to the group chat from the forums, like the USC fan forums. Man, they get crazy over there. So I don't know, they might hear this and have a couple words about that 8-4.
Yep. And I saw you got the graphic that just went up. So it was a lose, win, and then between Michigan and Wisconsin, you split there. So you're 2-2, and then you beat Minnesota's 3-2, lose Penn State 3-3. Win, Washington, win. So that late October, November was good. And then you're 2-1 to finish out the season.
Yeah. All right. I like it. And you stole I was going to clip it and just tag you and surprise you there, but you stole the fun. I'm just kidding. All right. last one here. Colorado. I love this app, but I hate it at the same time. All right. So North Dakota State at home. Then Nebraska on the road, which you just talked about, the darling that feels like everybody's rooting for them. Then Colorado State on the road. Baylor at home. Central Florida away. Kansas State home. Going to Wildcat Country, Arizona. Cincinnati at home. Texas Tech on the road. Utah at home. Kansas on the road. Oklahoma State at home.
The Big 12 is going to be fascinating because there's literally like 8 teams in this conference that I think view themselves as the premier program in the conference. Like Utah, obviously, Colorado, given the Dion, like they view that. ASU, I think, thinks that they should be the premier of the West Coast teams coming out, but that's not what you asked. It's just an interesting talking point. I'm saying no. Let me see here. I think they find themselves 3-1 after the first 4. I'm saying Nebraska's their one loss. Those next 4, Arizona's really has a lot of talent, but I think they're thin. I'm saying I think it's going to be competitive. I still don't know where Colorado's at on the offensive and defensive lines. I'm going Colorado's 9-3. They flirt with the playoff conversation, but I think Utah wins the Big 12, and Utah's the premier team in the Big 12 this year.
I love that. Yeah. I feel like with you got a 7th-year guy, he's got to be that, right? He's got to be – this is his make or break year, I feel like.
Yeah, and it's not only them, too. They got Brant Keithy, who was one of the best tight ends in the country. He was better than Dalton Kincaid, and Dalton Kincaid was a first, second round. He's about to be the dude for the Bills this year. He can come back healthy. But it'll be interesting. That schedule, that ending that you showed there with Utah and then Kansas, which hopefully has a healthy Daniels at quarterback there, and then finishing with Oklahoma State. Like that right there could be some big time football with if they're in contention for the Big 12 race.
Yeah, dude. And like you said, Big 12 is crazy this year. I feel like we're seeing all these conference realignments and it's just getting more and more crazy, which is great for us fans. We alluded to it. Probably shitty for the athletes here, but man, I'm excited for this college football season. I know you are too, Max. We can't appreciate you enough for hopping on, dude.
For sure. It was fun. Yeah, no, it was fun. Good. Motivates me to go study up on the nuances of Pitt's roster. But no, I appreciate the questions, and it's fun popping around from the playing days, recruit days, all the way to the analyst side of things.
Yeah, man. We can't thank you enough, dude. We wish you the best of luck. Anytime you want to come back on, you're always part of us. You're welcome back anytime, dude.
Appreciate it. Thanks, fellas.
Right, take care.
No problem. Take care.
Devontae, I'm going to try to get this loaded. I can.
You guys need me to hang on, or is it all
no, you can hop off. Me and Devontae are going to finish up some stuff, and then we'll tag you in some clips and stuff, dude. But we can't appreciate you enough.
Cool. Sounds good. Appreciate you guys. Awesome linking up. Yep, take it easy.
Yeah. Golly. Of course, Switcher wants to mess up when we got a good guest like that, man. But man, awesome interview. I really appreciate him hopping on. I'm glad he was kind of translucent. Like he was very open and honest on how everything went.
I've been sitting on that question for a minute. Like when you first told me, that was the first thing I thought about.
Yeah. If you were going to ask me, I was. So I'm glad you did. That was a heck of a question. I guess the only really stuff we got left to talk about here. Let's talk Oregon NIL money. Phil Knight's going to throw the bag. He said this thing is endless. I got Nike, Jordan, money coming in. It doesn't matter. You give us the best players at Oregon. I feel like it's dangerous, but we've been saying this the Wild Wild West with NIL money. If Oregon can't win with the biggest bank load that we've seen, there's something wrong, right?
Right.
Like this is crazy. This is wild.
I don't know. Like I was about, we don't know if it's true. We could probably look it up and figure out if it's true. But even if that is the case, that's low key kind of embarrassing. It's like like when we were growing up, like Oregon was cool. Like we were known to watch their games because they were fun, but we never knew them to win shit, but maybe their conference every now and then, or maybe a bowl game, but we know they look cool doing it. And I guess Phil Knight figured out, like, I can't keep making bread off aesthetics alone, because we already see now some of the they keep going back to this like minimalist stuff, and the jerseys are kind of weird. So like he might be figuring out he's losing money. So I mean, that might not even be the case. Like Nike could be having a record year, but what I do know is, like, both of us are big on jerseys, and we've seen sort of like the decline of creativity on jerseys. Like, it's just black and like minimalist writing and maybe a shiny helmet, and like we go crazy because the lights hit it just right. But then it's like what we had before was so much cooler. So I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm with you. Man, that's a good take. Like, I forgot about the jerseys kind of get more and more simple for Oregon.
Yeah.
I like that take a lot.
And so, like, and I also wonder, like, what do they do with all of those ideas? Like, are there ideas that get scrapped? And like, do they reach back for the scrapped ideas? I don't know. I mean, I know Oregon and Nike are pretty much one and the same. So this makes sense. But at the same time, like, if people want, now for me, I remember I said, like, when I was getting recruited for football, like, football is not in my heart like that. And I always said, like, I really would just do it for the free gear. So if it were me, hell yeah, I'm doing it. But like, people that want to win and like want to, go further, it could be one of those cases where they go there and then transfer and just have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah. That's actually a good take. Like, because you're right. There's a lot of cats. Like, I know I'm not going to league. I'm good enough to play at a blue collar program or blue blood program like Oregon. Okay, maybe I'll get a couple 10 pair of free shoes, some good gear. Call it a day. That's a good call, Devontae. I like it.
Nike especially, like, and they get player editions. They also get shoes and clothes like nobody else gets, because it's right there. The press is right there. So of course they're gonna get everything.
Exactly. Man, I like that take. All right. Let's hop on to EA College Football 25 here. This is wild. Shedeur Sanders is the number 1 rated quarterback in college football.
Yeah, bro.
That's wild. Now, Travis Hunter, number 1 rated athlete, wide receiver. Okay, cool. That makes sense to me. But Shedeur, that he won 4 games. He's definitely not the number 1 rated quarterback in my eyes. Quinn Ewers, you got Beckett from Georgia. Like, I feel like I could probably name 5 or 6 different quarterbacks that probably deserve a higher rating.
So when I first saw the list, I was thinking, because also on that top, I think it was like top 8 list, it was Shedeur. Right up under him was Carson Beck, but I want to say he was like either one below if they weren't the same thing. It was Dylan Gabriel, Quinn Ewers, Jalen Milroe, Jalen Daniels, that dude Caden Salters from Liberty,
Jackson Dart, Ole Miss.
Jackson Dart. So like all of those people, and I kept thinking, like, if we think back to what we know what NCAA is, we always want to speed, right? And like with the Madden formula so far, if you have a high speed, somehow like your overall goes up. So what Shedeur had, he probably had throw power and speed that probably put him above. And hopefully, like, it's just like Madden where you go through the season and it actually changes. Like, he started off as a 94, played like ass. Let's put him at an 88 where he should have been, and he might go up to an 89 the next day. But I don't know. I'm gonna be honest.
That's a good call.
I'm gonna be honest. Shedeur didn't really make me as mad. Like, I thought Jackson Dart should have been a little higher.
But
Travis Hunter being the best wide receiver in the game didn't really sit right with me, because there were a lot of wide receivers that came back. Specifically, that I don't know if it was the same guy, but there was a guy from Oregon who came back. I think Tetsuroya McMillan from Arizona, he's good. there was just like, to me, there were several wide receivers that were good. So I'm trying to figure out like what all goes into these rankings and like what makes them different. And if they're gonna like, play like that, like are they gonna be cheat codes?
Yeah, man, that's a good call. See, I didn't think about like Shador's athleticism with his big arm, and like that's a recipe for like a great college football game, because I remember like Steve Slayton, Pat White were a cheat code in West Virginia because you had speed
Right.
and you had Pat White's looseness with his big arm. That's a good call. See, Travis Hunter, I think he should be the number one rated athlete, but I'm with you. Maybe not the number one rated wide receiver. I agree with you on that one.
Because I mean, wide receiver, like he was just fast. But if that was the case, he should have been like the 80s or something. Because his hands weren't always there throughout the season. Like there were a couple drops there. Even as a cornerback, there were a couple drops there. So,
yeah, I love that. Any other player rating that you liked or rubbed you the wrong way? Any other position group here?
I feel like that this came out, but when they came out with like all the other players, including the running backs, I think they got the running backs right.
Yeah, I do like that.
And I'm ready to see like how is that going to work. Because I wanted to like, I'm somewhat of an old head. I'm one of the few players that like to run the ball. I hate passing all the time because it's always some cheating shit. You can't cheat and run. So like I love doing it. But I think they got the running backs right. He mentioned Jaden Ott, and like, you shouldn't really base things off of a video game, but he was actually up there a little bit as far as with ratings too.
Yeah, he was. And he mentioned Ollie Gordon, Oklahoma State's running back, which is the number one rated running back. Yeah.
Oh, dang, we forgot about that. He got a DUI and his coach supported him.
Yeah, which that's wild. He said, I've done that 13, 14 times.
Yeah, it was like, what is wrong with you? Mike Gundy, though, you carry on the legacy.
I'm 40. Yeah. That's wild, dude. I totally forgot all about that news conference. I can't believe he said that.
Anyway. I can. He had the mullet. I was like,
yeah.
About to go
Arkansas
crazy
waterfall.
in the summertime.
And then the team ratings. We didn't get a chance to talk about this. Georgia being number one at 96, Ohio State 93, Oregon 93, Bama 92, Texas 92, Clemson 90, Notre Dame 90, LSU 90. That rounds up your top 8 there. I don't hate this list. There's a lot of lists that I think we could pick apart and pretty easily. This one, I'm not necessarily mad at it. I'm looking Penn State, LSU, you might be able to flip-flop that. Notre Dame, you never know with Notre Dame what you're going to get. I don't hate it. Like Kansas at 22, Daniels, if he's ready to go, he'll be all right. Your Pack's at 21.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
I'm not mad.
Yeah.
Just because, like, if we think about, how they played last year, I'm looking at this, I'm like, I'm not mad. Like, maybe Colorado, they only won 4 games, but at the same time, the talent was there. It's just like it couldn't come together for whatever reason.
Exactly.
I like that they respected Kansas because Kansas really did well in their bowl game, like throughout the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa, I don't know. I feel like they would be bumped a little higher just based off of defense, for real. Defense and maybe special teams or something.
Exactly. Yeah, dude. I'm glad we both agree here that this list, not bad, EA. It's definitely not the worst list you've had. I think we picked apart what toughest places to play last week. That was terrible. But this one, I feel like they got it right. All right. Last topic. That's all we got. Kawhi out of the Olympics.
Big Kawhi.
Yeah, which we were talking before we hopped on here. I had no idea, like, obviously dealing with injuries, but it seemed like he was ramped up, ready to go. And then the Clippers and USA Basketball get together and say, you know what? Just focus on being a Clipper next season. Don't worry about the Olympics. I feel like maybe there's something behind the scenes. I feel like maybe hopefully not. Maybe there's people saw the writing on the wall, like this guy's got to get completely healthy. I feel like it's got to be a blow, though.
Yeah. I don't, now to the national team, I don't think it's necessarily a blow because like I guess they figured they got tired of getting embarrassed for the past like year or so. So they were like, we literally got to bring out all the stops. And they did. And so with Kawhi, like the last time I saw him play basketball, the last game I saw him in, it was bad. Like the game before was good. Like, he was regular Kawhi, but this game was bad.
Right.
And so, like, he is getting up in age. It is like pretty much the same injury for the most part. Like, it seems like he keeps re-aggravating it or adding to it. Like, if it's his knee, he's landing wrong and landing on his ankle. I don't know. But I mean, I think it is worth the Clippers trying to protect their investment. They might be trying to ship him off. I don't think they will, but shoot, it could be a possibility either for like next season or something like that. And they want to make sure he at least has some game film to tax somebody.
Man, that's a good call. Like, yeah, I'm with you. I don't see them shipping him off, but it does make sense. It checks a lot of boxes for them. Like, hey, get healthy, ball out this first month of the season. We'll see what we can get from you. I do like that. All right. Any other news from you?
No, Summer League is kind of ass. But hey, Zach Edey heard us talking shit, and he actually did pretty well. I think he ended the last game with a double-double, like 14 and 13. So like I am kind of excited to see what he'll do against like actual like players.
Yeah.
But he did pretty well. The last Summer League game I was watching, he was sitting down. I guess he was like, "Oh, you proved enough." So they let him sit out a game, but he's been quiet throughout the whole process, but maybe that means something.
On the other side, Browne, 4 points, then he sits out.
Yeah.
Not a good look.
Because of soreness. I think it was Gilbert Arenas' podcast, man. It was Cameron and Mace. They pulled out the old head argument. They were like, "You're too young to be sore." I get it, but like, I mean, I actually kind of get it because we've already seen like contract talks for him, and I'm like, are we tripping? Like, are we serious right now?
Exactly.
So we, only time can tell. We try to support the youth any way we can, but bruh, we got to have some reason. I will say, like, watching the Lakers Summer League, like, everybody's kind of terrible. Blake Henson that played for Pitt last year, he was out there. He's doing pretty well, but for the most part, nobody's really standing out from what I see from the Lakers Summer League.
I like that. Yeah, 100%. All right. Pub parlay, random question. We'll get out of here.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's play it. Any day you want, Devontae, whatever day, let's make it happen.
Let's see. Today's Wednesday. Shoot, let's go Friday. Oh, yeah. Going Friday. Mariners, Angels. Taking the Mariners.
Mariners, Angels. Taking Mariners. All right. I'm going to trust you, Devontae. I'm going to trust you. All right. So Friday, we're looking for Friday action here. Dude, I need one more goal for Colombia and Uruguay right now.
Well, it's probably two.
I went over 1.5. Oh, I need it. Need it bad. All right. Let's see. Schedule. I'll go a little baseball with you. Man, it's been so hit or miss, especially as we get closer to All-Star.
You're right.
I feel like it's just up and down, up and down. I'm going to take the Dodgers over to Detroit.
Oh, yeah. That feels like a given.
Yeah.
It should be.
Right. Should be. We just need to make some money. That's all. We need Uruguay to score a goal, Colombia to score a goal, whoever score one more goal here. All right. Random question. You got one for us?
Let's see. Here you go. What was the most memorable shoe that you had when you were in high school?
Oh, when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. I didn't really get in the shoe game until later.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you mine. So, like, my sister got me this pair of shoes. We went to there used to be this stockyard in Raleigh called Watson's. And she took me out there to get a pair of shoes. It was a pair of black patent leather Jordans that were a mix between Jordan 10s and Jordan 7s. They were not real. They were patent leather Jordans. They were not real. And I'll never forget when I first got them and I wore them to school and like they had no grip. I was sliding in the hallways at school. Then I remember like one of the same days, I think I forgot my shoes for basketball practice and I had to wear them shoes.
Oh, no.
It was bad. But that was my first pair of Jordans. They were fake, but I had Jordans.
Yeah, yeah.
Hordons.
There it is. I couldn't think of something to say. I had like a real basic pair of like, they weren't Jordans, but it was a Nike that was very similar to like a Jordan 5, but it wasn't a Jordan 5. I can't remember the name of it.
Was the Nike Air Flight where they were like Nike shoes?
Yes, that was it.
Yeah.
Oh, I had like a light gray pair. I loved it. I wore the mess out of those. But yeah, I didn't really get into shoes until like really until I got like a job. Like I got married and then I was like, babe, I think I'm getting shoes. And I started buying like some Oregons and some retros and that type of stuff. But yeah, it took up until then.
Yeah. My roommate was a sneakerhead. So like he helped me and like I remember he had a car, so we would just go to the mall and just look at shoes.
Yeah.
But we had no money, so we would just literally look at them and like go back to the room or whatever. So like when I first started teaching, I wasn't living on my own just yet. So like I would pay my bills and be like, I found shoes on eBay. I used to find the shoes on eBay. And I was like, you know what? I'm worth more than that. So I started buying shoes off of sneakers and stuff whenever I could win. So I've slowed down a bit. I'm into my Unk era. So like I'm looking for comfortable shoes.
Yeah, you got them Birks from DHgate.
Yeah, I got them. So like a lot of the shoes I have is just for like decoration and just to say I have them.
Yeah.
I can't wear them shoes no more.
I'm with you on that, dude. I'm 100% with you on that. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to Max Browne there, him telling a story and talking some college football. It gets me juiced up, ready for the season, man. I'm pumped for it.
Yes, sir.
We're at to go tailgate for the NC State games.
God, yeah. I've been thinking closely about this State Tennessee game for the past few days. I don't know. I've been thinking about it.
You let me know. We ride, baby. You let me know. I'll wear my Tennessee jersey and I'll just give you hell all night.
Oh, God. That's going to be fun.
All right, brother.
All right.
And has proven to be a quick study as he threw for over 8,000 yards and 95 touchdowns in his first 2 years as a starter.
Lord know my heart and I got so much love to give. He who tries gotta die. Put on murder gloves for him.
Starts at different points. Kessler obviously had a fantastic career, but you would assume that Max Browne feels like he can step up and make these types of plays very consistently in the lineup.
All learning how to fly.
Out of the backfield for the Pittsburgh touchdown. 48 yards. Hey, Max Browne did a nice job.
I'm not human, but I'm human like.
He didn't like what he seen.
Glowing the dogs don't save me to move at night.
In ASU last year, can that be not just something that happens game here, game there, but every single drive
There's been some one bad team